I will neither deny or confirm that any such rumors about personal things like that are true or untrue.
Are you happy?
It depends. It also depends on when you ask. No, not particularly.
Did he struggle with the idea of coming out publicly? Was that something that you talked about at all?
Well, he did not want his mother to be, although she might have known, but he wasn't going to come out and say this to the world.
Okay, y'all, let's talk about something seriously juicy. I've been doing some digging, and the dirt I've unearthed about Luther Vandross and Clive Davis is, well, it's a whole mess. We're talking allegations so wild, so shocking, they'll make your head spin. I'm talking about claims of forced gay rituals, of Clive Davis allegedly turning Luther Vandross into his personal puppet, a puppet controlled through manipulation, and according to some accounts, far more sinister means. Now, before you dismiss this as just another crazy internet rumor, let me tell you why I'm even bringing this up. This isn't some random blog post. The name Patti LaBelle is being thrown around in connection with these allegations. Patti LaBelle, a legend, and the details being shared, they're not just whispers in the dark. People are claiming to have first-hand accounts, or at least accounts from people who are supposedly close to both Luther and Clive. I know, it sounds unbelievable. It sounds like something out of a Hollywood conspiracy thriller, but the more I dig, the more unsettling this whole thing becomes. We're talking about the career of one of the greatest vocalists of all time, allegedly manipulated and controlled by a powerful industry figure, and the alleged methods, they're disturbing, to say the least. So, grab your popcorn, because we're about to embark on a journey into a story that's equal part fascinating and deeply unsettling. Let's talk about Luther Vandross. He wasn't just a singer, he was a force of nature. Born and raised in New York, he wasn't just another artist. He became a cornerstone of R&B. Think about it. By the time the 21st century arrived, this man had already sold millions upon millions of records, racking up hit after hit that went platinum multiple times over. We're not talking about small numbers here. We're talking about a career that transcended mere popularity and cemented his place in music history. And it's not just hype. Major publications like Rolling Stone and Billboard, they didn't just give him a nod. They recognized him as one of the all-time greats, a true giant in the world of rhythm and blues. His voice, his artistry, it was something special, something that deserves to be remembered and celebrated. Tragically, he died in 2005, much too young, at only 54 years old. His amazing success in the music world is well known. He sold millions of records, won countless awards, and is still remembered as one of the greatest singers ever. But there's a darker side to his story, one that's been hinted at by people who knew him well. Close friends, including the legendary Patti LaBelle, have suggested that Luther faced serious personal challenges, particularly related to his relationship with Clive Davis, the powerful music executive who played a major role in his career.
Worst celebrity like that you've been around is like the most full of sin. I know no sin is greater, but like just was like, damn, this
Clive Davis. Devil incarnate. Clive Davis.
These accounts talk about a man under immense pressure, allegedly forced into situations he was uncomfortable with and didn't want to be a part of. While the specifics remain somewhat unclear, the underlying theme is one of coercion and manipulation. It's a story that raises troubling questions about the power dynamics within the music industry and how that power can be used to control and exploit even the most talented and successful artists. Apparently, all that fame and fortune didn't always shield him from hardship, and that even the brightest stars can have hidden struggles. And turns out, being in the spotlight and being close to Clive ruined his life, and many people agree with these allegations. One person wrote on X, Jaguar, Wright has been calling out Clive Davis for years, and every time it gets brushed off as a conspiracy, but the rumors surrounding him have never gone away. His control over the industry, the careers he's made or destroyed, and the dark allegations that keep surfacing. Clive Davis's public coming out as bisexual in 2013, after a life largely lived in the public eye as a heterosexual man with 2 marriages behind him, sent ripples through the music industry. This wasn't just a personal revelation, it was a powerful statement about self-discovery and acceptance, a journey he openly discussed, detailing his attraction to men and the process of understanding his own identity. He also spoke of a long-term relationship with a male partner, a doctor, that spanned over a decade, and it was all okay. The world was okay with him being gay before he started ruining people's life because of his preference. His personal narrative took on a more complicated and troubling dimension when considered alongside the life and career of Luther Vandross. Vandross, a hugely popular and undeniably charismatic R&B icon, cultivated a powerful image. This made any speculation about his particularly sensitive and potentially damaging. When rumors about his being gay began to surface, they were met with shock and often disbelief from a significant portion of his fan base. Adding fuel to the fire were persistent whispers suggesting that Clive Davis, given his own later admission of bisexuality and his immense power within the music industry, may have played a role in either creating or amplifying these rumors, potentially to serve his own purposes or manage the public image of both himself and Vandross.
What's the end game?
Cruelty-free artistry. Period. If I have a position to stand on, all of this pain to create all of this happiness, and no one knows what's really going on.
The implication, however disturbing, is that Davis may have leveraged his influence to shape the narrative surrounding Vandross's sex, potentially dragging him into a situation he was not comfortable with or prepared for. This adds a layer of darkness to the already complex and tragic story of Luther Vandross, raising serious questions about the ethical responsibilities of power in the music industry. And it's not just Luther. One person wrote on X, Ian Carroll reveals how Diddy was introduced to gay by Jewish record producer Clive Davis. For years, the alleged actions of Clive Davis toward Luther Vandross remained largely hidden, shrouded in the secrecy that often surrounds the inner workings of the music industry. Davis's considerable power and influence allowed him to maintain a carefully constructed public image, shielding any potentially damaging information about his dealings with Vandross. The whispers and rumors that circulated were often dismissed as speculation or gossip, lacking the concrete evidence needed to bring the allegations into the harsh light of public scrutiny. However, the emergence of Patti LaBelle's willingness to speak out marks a significant turning point. LaBelle, a close friend of Vandross and a highly respected figure in her own right, is in a position to potentially shatter the long-standing silence. Her willingness to share her knowledge and perspective carries significant weight, offering the possibility of finally bringing to light the alleged details of the manipulative and potentially abusive tactics Davis employed against Vandross. While the specifics of what LaBelle plans to reveal remain to be seen, her involvement suggests a potential shift in the narrative, a move away from hushed speculation toward a more public and potentially legally actionable confrontation of the accusations against Davis. The long-held secrets surrounding the relationship between these two powerful figures in the music world may finally be exposed, potentially leading to a reckoning for those involved and a reevaluation of the power dynamics within the industry. And she's been at it for years. Do you remember that time Patti LaBelle basically broke the internet? It was 2017, and she was on Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen, and she dropped a bombshell. She confirmed that Luther Vandross was gay. Now, this wasn't some random celebrity gossip. This was huge. It wasn't just about revealing his sexuality. It was about finally acknowledging a big part of who Luther was, a part he'd kept hidden for his entire career. LaBelle, who was really close to Luther, explained that he'd had a really hard time with the idea of coming out publicly. It wasn't about hiding it from his friends. It was more about protecting his family, especially his mom. He didn't want to cause her any pain or upset, so even though Patti might have known, she respected his decision to keep it private while he was alive. It really paints a picture of the kind of pressure he must have been under, balancing his personal life with the demands of being a massive superstar. During that interview, Patti LaBelle shared some really insightful details about Luther's struggles. She said he had a huge number of female fans, and that was a big part of why he hesitated to come out. He didn't want to disappoint them or cause any kind of upheaval. He told Patti that he just didn't want to upset the world.
Did he struggle with the idea of coming out publicly? Was that something that you talked about at all?
Basically, he did not want his mother to be, although she might have known, but he wasn't going to come out and say this to the world. And he had a lot of lady fans, and he told me that he just didn't want to upset the world.
She emphasized how difficult this internal conflict must have been for him. It wasn't just about his own feelings. It was about the potential impact on his career, his fans, and most importantly, his family. He worried about his mother's reaction, even though Patti implied she might have suspected the truth. It paints a picture of a man caught between his personal truth and the immense pressures of his public life. He clearly loved and respected his mother, and that played a huge role in his decision to keep his private. Of course, Patti's revelation didn't come without backlash. A lot of people criticized her for sharing something Luther had clearly chosen to keep private during his lifetime. The argument was simple. If he hadn't wanted the world to know, then Patti shouldn't have said anything, regardless of their friendship. Some felt she'd betrayed his trust, violated his privacy, and disrespected his wishes. Others argued that she had no right to speak for him, even posthumously.
Luther's been gone for about 12 years now, okay? Luther never publicly came out of the closet, despite the rumors. Andy can ask, but she should have said no comment. It's not okay to talk about it when it's your best friend. You know, it's like a violation.
The comments ranged from accusations of insensitivity to outright anger, highlighting the complex ethical considerations surrounding the disclosure of someone else's private information, even when done with seemingly good intentions. Even today, coming out as LGBTQ+ takes courage. While society has become more accepting, it's still not easy, and the risk can be significant, especially for people who belong to multiple marginalized groups. Imagine being both black and gay in the 1980s, at the height of Luther Vandross's career. The world of R&B and soul music back then was often very macho, and there was a lot of judgment. Coming out publicly as a gay black man would have been incredibly difficult, maybe even terrifying. Think about the internal conflict he must have felt. On one side, the desire to be honest about who he was. On the other, the very real fear of losing everything: his career, his fans, his respect. He'd poured his heart and soul into building his success, and the thought of jeopardizing it all must have been paralyzing. It's easy to look back now and say what he should have done, but it's crucial to remember the context of the time and the immense pressure he was under. His decision to remain private wasn't simply a matter of choice. It was a complex calculation weighed against the very real consequences he might have faced. Interestingly, despite the persistent rumors, it doesn't seem like Luther Vandross was particularly bothered by speculation about his sex. He simply chose not to confirm or deny anything. In a 2001 interview with Vibe magazine, he even playfully addressed the years of gossip, asking, "What do you want to know?" He acknowledged the price he paid for his privacy, wondering aloud if it was worth it. This comment hints at the difficult position he was in. The rumors, however, took a cruel and damaging turn. The speculation about morphed into false reports that he had AIDS, culminating in a completely false report of his death from the disease in 2000. This toxic climate makes it easy to understand why coming out wouldn't have seemed like a safe or worthwhile option. For a black gay man in that era, whether closeted or not, the desire for love and happiness was the same as anyone else's, but the path to achieving it was fraught with far greater obstacles and dangers. His admission in the same interview that he'd never been in love is heartbreaking in light of the homophobic environment he navigated. It suggests a life lived with a significant part of himself hidden, a profound loneliness alongside immense professional success. It's possible that within the music industry, Luther Vandross's sexuality wasn't entirely a secret. Some have speculated that Clive Davis, his powerful mentor and record executive, may have been aware of it. This knowledge, if true, could explain the alleged pattern of exploitation that began to emerge. If Davis knew about Vandross's sex and understood the potential vulnerability that came with it in that era, he used that knowledge to exert undue influence and control.
If you knew how Clive Davis used to torture Luther Vandross, it might make you look at some of those Luther Vandross albums a little bit. You know, we shouldn't have to naturally expect as artists that we're gonna have to be victimized to get ahead. How does something that God gave us that brings so much joy end up in such all the time? I want to be able to look at a young artist and see her grow up and know she never had to have what happened to me happen to her to get a Grammy, to get a sold-out tour, to get a movie. That's my end game at this point. Can we make good art without having to hurt someone to do it? Well, can we send our kids to auditions and pray to God they don't get touched? You know, is that really asking for so much?
The power imbalance between a major record executive and a rising star, combined with the social stigma surrounding homosexuality, could have created an environment ripe for manipulation. This isn't to say that being gay automatically equates to vulnerability, but in the context of the time and the specific dynamics of their relationship, it's a factor that can't be ignored. The talk of the town is that Davis may have used this knowledge to manipulate and control Vandross, potentially explaining some of the troubling allegations that have surfaced. Vandross was a young, incredibly talented black artist trying to make it big in the music industry back in the 70s and 80s. The pressure was immense, right? It wasn't just about about talent. It was about navigating a system that wasn't always fair, a system where being black and being gay added extra layers of difficulty. Failure wasn't just about not making it, it was about potentially losing everything. And that's where someone like Clive Davis comes in. Davis was a hugely powerful figure, a kingmaker in the music world. He had the power to make or break careers. Now imagine if Davis knew about Luther's reality. Think about the leverage that would give him. In those days, being openly gay, especially as a black man, could have been career suicide. The fear of that kind of exposure, the fear of losing everything he'd worked for, could have been incredibly powerful. It's not a stretch to imagine that someone like Davis could have used that knowledge to manipulate and control Luther. We're not saying this definitely happened, but it's a very real possibility. The threat of outing him, of revealing his private life to the world, could have been used to make him do things he didn't want to do, to bend him to Davis's will. It's a chilling thought, but it highlights the kind of power imbalances that existed and still exist in the music industry. It's a reminder that success often comes at a cost, and for some, that cost can be far greater than most of us can imagine. It's a story that needs to be explored because it speaks to a darker side of the industry, a side where talent and ambition can be brutally exploited. And Clive Davis's career as a highly successful music executive is undeniable, but it's also important to acknowledge that his personal life and some business dealings have been the subject of considerable speculation and controversy. While the specifics of his private life remain his own, the context of his later public coming out as bisexual after a long career presenting a largely hetero public image adds a layer of complexity to understanding his past actions. Some have suggested that his own experiences navigating personal identity might offer some insight into his alleged treatment of Luther Vandross, though this in no way excuses or justifies any potential wrongdoing. However, allegations against Davis extend beyond simple questions of personal identity. Serious claims have been made suggesting a pattern of behavior far more disturbing than mere insensitivity or poor judgment. These allegations show us a man who allegedly engaged in manipulative and exploitative behavior, potentially using his immense power and influence to engage in activities that were morally reprehensible and potentially illegal. Davis's influence extended beyond shaping musical careers and into the realm of personal control and manipulation, raising serious ethical and legal questions about his conduct. The contrast between his public image as a powerful and influential figure in the music industry and the darker allegations against him highlights the importance of critically examining the power dynamics within the industry and the potential for abuse. Clive Davis's association with Sean Diddy Combs further complicates his legacy. Diddy himself has been the subject of numerous allegations, creating a complex and unsettling picture. While nothing has been definitively proven, the sheer volume of claims suggests a pattern of behavior that, at the very least, raises serious ethical questions. These allegations involve Diddy's alleged involvement in activities that are at best questionable and at worst potentially criminal, and they implicate a network of powerful individuals. One such individual is Clive. Their relationship, beyond the mentor-protege dynamic, has been the subject of considerable speculation. Rumors suggest a connection far closer and more intimate than a simple professional relationship. This association, coupled with the allegations surrounding Diddy, casts a further shadow over Davis's already controversial legacy. The implication is that Davis may have been involved in, or at least aware of, activities that were ethically questionable, if not outright illegal. This adds another layer to the complex and disturbing picture emerging from the allegations against him, suggesting a potential network of power and influence used for questionable purposes. Adding another layer to the already complex picture surrounding Clive Davis and Sean Diddy Combs is the claim made by rapper Suge Knight. Knight, whose real name is Marion Hugh Knight Jr., allegedly overheard a conversation in Jimmy Iovine's office that suggested a romantic relationship between Davis and Combs. This account, shared on Knight's podcast, Collect Call with Suge Knight, adds fuel to the fire of speculation surrounding the nature of their relationship. While this remains an allegation, it contributes to the growing body of rumors and innuendos surrounding Davis and his associates, further fueling questions about the potential for unethical and potentially illegal behavior within the upper echelons of the music industry. The fact that such a claim comes from a figure as controversial as Suge Knight doesn't necessarily invalidate it, but it does highlight the need for further investigation and corroborating evidence before drawing definitive conclusions. Nevertheless, the anecdote serves to illustrate the persistent whispers and and speculation surrounding Davis and his connections, adding to the already complicated narrative surrounding his career and personal life. He said, "I'm here because Clive Davis told me that him and Puffy's real tight and, lovers. So I thought he was talking like they got love for each other." I'm like, "Aight." He said, "Nah, they are lovers." The conversation continued, and I'm like, "Why do you keep saying that?" He added. I said, "Are they lovers like?" He said, "I don't want to say that, but that's what that means, right?" Suge Knight's assertion that powerful men in the music industry often kept their same relationships secret is a significant claim. He suggests that these relationships weren't necessarily a matter of closeted homosexuality, but rather a calculated strategy to maintain a specific public image. Knight alleges that these men maintained a facade of heterosexuality, often engaging in abusive relationships with women while privately pursuing relationships with other men. This aligns with the broader societal pressures faced by gay men, particularly in the 1980s and 90s, where being openly gay could have significant professional and social repercussions. The allegations against Diddy further complicate this picture. While accusations of sexual assault against women are serious, the rumors of similar predatory behavior against men seeking to enter the industry paint a disturbing picture of exploitation and abuse of power. The suggestion is that Diddy, potentially mirroring the behavior he alleges of Clive Davis, used his position and influence to take advantage of vulnerable young men aspiring to success in the music industry. This mirrors the allegations against Davis himself, suggesting a potential pattern of behavior among powerful figures leveraging their positions for personal gain and control. The combination of these claims, while requiring further investigation and evidence, points to a deeply troubling culture of secrecy, abuse, and exploitation within the music industry, where power and influence were allegedly used to mask predatory behavior and maintain a carefully constructed public image. The rumors surrounding Clive Davis and Sean Diddy Combs extend beyond simple speculation about a romantic relationship. Allegations suggest a more sinister dynamic, with claims that Davis used his immense power and influence to pressure Combs into sexual acts in exchange for career advancement. This alleged pattern of coercion mirrors the experiences described by numerous celebrities who have come forward with accusations of exploitation within the entertainment industry. The Harvey Weinstein scandal, for example, brought to light a similar pattern of abuse of power, where vulnerable individuals were allegedly coerced into in exchange for career opportunities. The power imbalance between a powerful executive like Davis and an aspiring artist like Combs and Luther creates an environment ripe for exploitation. Even if a sexual relationship did exist, the question of consent and coercion remains central. When you hear about this kind of alleged coercion, where someone in a powerful position uses their influence to get what they want, it makes you think of other cases, like Harvey Weinstein. It's not just about one bad apple. It points to a potentially rotten system. The idea that someone like Diddy might have been pressured into a relationship in exchange for career advancement isn't just about two individuals. It suggests a pattern, a way of doing business that's been allowed to flourish for far too long. It makes you wonder how many other people have experienced similar situations. How many other stories are out there waiting to be told? It's a really disturbing thought, and it highlights the need for serious changes within the industry to protect vulnerable people from this kind of alleged abuse. So what do you think? Comment down below and let us know. If you like this video, click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon to be the first to see my next video. I post updates like this every week where I uncover the secrets of your favorite celebrities.